What's going on, everybody? Today's episode of All Facts, No Cap, we have renowned dating coach and luxury matchmaker, Katy Clark. And Katy, I feel like there's so many different areas that we can go just within your profession. And there's so many tentacles that we can go ahead and try to explore. But I'm going to go ahead and start off by asking exactly what got you into this profession, how long you've been doing it.
Oh, that's a great question. So, we all go to college. We have these majors. I was a Spanish and a sociology major. Ultimately, I think I realized I just like people. And after my divorce, I started working with matchmakers. I saw a TV show and I got into a database and I Googled like matchmaker databases. I was a single mom with 3 little kids. Dating, I was a good Christian, so I didn't really date before I was first married. So this idea of actually dating now with 3 little kids, it was a little overwhelming. Getting in the database helped me kind of go out, have fun. It was vetted. It was safe. And then ultimately, at that time, I was actually a chef and a trainer. I had been on the Next Food Network star. I was Shape Magazine, America's 50 Hottest Trainers. And as much as I love food and fitness, it's exhausting. And with 3 little kids, I was running around cooking for people and teaching everybody else how to exercise. And I thought, this is for the birds. I already look good. I already know how to cook. Like, I want someone who's going to take me out to eat and is going to show me off. So I actually started working for the company that I went on a date with, which is Sync Matchmaking, and that's CINQE.com. And they sent me on a date, and I said, look, you guys have been so professional. I mean, there's lots of matchmakers out there. Not everybody's professional. They were so on point, and they cared about what I was looking for. They listened to me as well, not just their client. And I said, can I join your team? Ironically, their team was like all these cute 20-year-old girls who didn't really understand the nuances of dating after divorce.
Yeah.
So as a single mom who is dating after divorce, you got to ask the questions like, well, what's your schedule?
Yeah.
And how is it with your ex? So these girls didn't quite always grasp that. So I kind of came on the team as like the post-divorced older woman who has a little bit more insight even into their target market.
I see. And within your being a dating coach, luxury matchmaker right now, is there a certain age range that you prefer to deal with? Is there a certain type of age genre that maybe you try to steer clear of and things like that?
It's those 20-year-olds. I have a few 20-year-olds myself. There's no way they're going to figure it out on their own. Well, can I I said, sweetheart, if you don't have game at 20, I'm not here to help you. I usually work with the post-divorce 40s and 50s, but I'm finding there's this new crew of 30-year-olds who are, marrying and dating for so long that they're not getting married. And then especially the girls, these 30-year-old women, they put in their careers first. And then at 38, 39, they come to me and they're like, Katy, help get me a guy real fast. And I'm like, ooh, girl, that's some bad energy. So I do help with those ladies, really getting them on track, helping them get focused. Typically, men are my favorite clients. Women can be very difficult. I'm curious, but man, their expectations are like out of this world. So I usually, steer towards men. And with the coaching, it really is about the idea that I can get you a first date. Like I can do the work, I can do the vetting. I'm literally recruiting for you, and you go on the date. And then you can't get the second date. So I'm like, we want a successful situation here. So that's where the coaching really came in. Like, look, I'll get you the first date, but can you get the second date? So a lot of feedback off their dates. I get feedback from all of my Instagram followers, all my friends dating, like what is working and what is not working.
It's so funny that you mentioned exactly how you were able to go ahead and just articulate exactly what you do and who you work with and what you prefer, men over females and the expectations aspect of it. And so basically, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie, but there was a movie several years ago, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, and it was called Hitch. It was with Will Smith, and obviously he was like a dating coach. Obviously, I believe he was with Eva Mendes was his co-star, and the guy from King of Queens, Kevin James, was also in it, and numerous other people. So it's almost kind of something like that. And you said something that resonated with me, how I can get you to the first date, but it's on you to get to the second and third, fourth, fifth, all things like that.
Right. And even beyond that, that's relationship coaching, where I am just trying to help people actually get a date, even starting from putting themselves online. If you don't, it's all sales and marketing. Dating is sales and marketing in the beginning stages. So if your photos aren't good, if your bio is boring, people are swiping no. And it isn't game. So in this era of disposable dating, as I like to call it, if you are not memorable, and those are the words I like to remind people, are you memorable? Do people get off the app and say like, oh, I hope that girl in the red blazer swipes yes on me? Are you that memorable? Because it's a swamp out there. It's almost a quagmire, and it's a skill set. So just like going into a job, are you memorable? Are you dressed well? Because how you show up matters. And by the way, you are a fantastic dresser. I checked you out with your little suits and your pocket squares. And I
appreciate that.
A course for men on style yourself confident. It matters. And so these are the little details and the nuances and the effort that women, I can speak highly, what women are looking for, but men are also looking at, different things from women. And so those are encapsulate so that on a first date, you are coming to the table with those things.
And when I go back to everything that you just mentioned, obviously, it's like you're kind of like a salesperson on the first date. Obviously, you want to have great personality, great attitude, great energy. You want to be dressed well. You want to fully encapsulate the part of being your potential partner. And you mentioned how expectations, and I feel like that probably is the answer to what I'm about to ask you now. In this dating age, in this society, in 2023, why is dating much harder now than it was back in yesteryear?
There's too many options now. We keep thinking we're going to find better. There's going to be something greater, something more exciting. And with that comes this delusion that I'm just going to keep swiping. No one's good enough. A lot of ladies, I hear this. Well, I'm such a great catch. They have this overinflated self-view that no man is good enough. And I'm like, sweetheart, this is why you're 50 and still single. And men do that as well. But there just really is this idea that people aren't sticking to core values when they choose someone. They're really using preferences. So example, women will say, well, I want a man who makes this much money with, good head of hair. He has to be this, and that. Those are all preferences because he could be bald and he could adore you. And I always try to get women to think, does he adore you? I don't care. And even age is starting to become an issue. It's about their energy. You can meet a person your age with zero energy, or you can meet an older man. I mean, I have clients that will not go past 47. And I'm thinking, why? Because 48, they turn weird on you, but they just stuck because it's their preference. It's not a deal breaker. So people really need to get back to their deal breakers, which is their deep core values of, let's be honest, religion and politics and what you believe about those things. That is your core value. And you need to share that and do life with somebody who is on that same train. So
when you speak on, you prefer to work with men over females, obviously, you just touched on expectations. Is there any other reason? Is there any other ideology behind why you're choosing to, why you prefer to work with men over females? I feel like I'm kind of touching like a powder keg, potentially right there, just by asking that question. So I'm hoping that I'm forming it in the correct way, but I feel like you get the sentiment of what I'm asking.
Men are simple creatures. And I'm so pro what I call the good guy, not the nice guy, not the simp, and not the alpha male. All these women want these alpha males there's two kinds of alpha males in the world. There's the alpha awesome, who's this guy, he's maybe a little bit quieter. He doesn't need to walk in a room and be all pompous. Then there's the alpha asshole. So ladies, I'm always trying to remind them, like, which one is he? Really get a groove on that. And then with guys, they're so forgiving. Like, they're not looking for the girl with the perfect skin and the perfect hair and the perfect body because they're gracious in that way. They're just looking for someone who also loves them back and respects them. And so when you're working with a guy, it's a lot easier for me to talk a guy into, hey, I chatted with this woman. I know she's maybe not as good looking as you think she needs to be, but I think she's an amazing person. And ultimately, it's like when you're house shopping, and I'm currently house shopping, and house shopping is so much like dating. It's almost exhausting, right?
Good point.
I'm on Zillow. I was till 2 a.m. looking for Dallas houses. I'm like, brick, brick, brick. Everything is brick and brown. And I'm like, no, I want white. And and it's disappointing. I'm so disappointed looking at, Texas houses are all brown brick because I feel like I want something different. So I am, strict on that. But really, you have to come to a place where no one is going to be 100% perfect. And my goal, and I even have a podcast on this where you actually calculate your relationship. Can you hit 80% you love and 20% can work on, or maybe never work on, but you can deal with? So the 80-20 rule is what I teach people. If you're in a relationship,
I've heard about that.
Or if you're with someone and 80% is amazing, that's a win for Pete's sake. But
Yeah.
women, 100% amazing. They want like the life, the private jets. And I'm like, and it's interesting because a lot of them will have money to hire us. You have to have, pretty good finances. And so these women hire us thinking we're going to bring them the wealthiest guy with a private jet because she too has money. But that's not what he's looking for. He's not looking for a financial equal. I mean, right? What are wealthy men looking for? They're looking for someone who can have fun with them. I always say men are looking for three things. Are you fit? Are you fun? Are you feminine? And of course, there's more than that. Let's break it down. Do you keep yourself well? Are you fun? You're not bitter and cranky about life. And are you feminine? What do you think?
I think you're spot on. I think there's a lot of truth to that, because I think that for a lot of men, they just simply want somebody who is going to, like you said, be feminine. Obviously, I remember seeing one of your reels one time where you talked about how females should keep themselves in shape because the man is keeping himself in shape and things like that. And I think that when you break it all the way down, to me, where I see a lot of dissension, where I see a lot of the confusion, where I see a lot of the heightened expectations, I attribute a lot of that to social media. And what you see a lot of is now the what do they call it? The not the fit couples, the couple goals, where you see the power couple and you see the entertainer or the ball player, the high price lawyer with the fitness guru model or the lingerie model, the runway model, or just, let me see the WNBA star, but just kind of like that power couple. And I think that right there is a lot of people. That's some people's reality, but that's not the majority of our reality.
Correct. And there's nothing wrong with the power couple that's raising good kids.
I agree.
The real reality is that very few people make it to that height and that level. And honestly, Biggie Smalls says it, more money, more problems.
Yep.
I just sat down with a matchmaker yesterday, big ring, big rock. And she's like, well, the guy I'm dating, even though he's given her the big ring and the big rock for, what's coming, he's not making enough right now. So she's like, I kind of want to leave him. Wow. I mean, you're already engaged, you're planning to get married. And he's like, well, I'm not making as much as I used to, but you should stick it out with me. So there's just a loss of value of people for who they are. Again, social media is promoting just shenanigans. And I do try to keep it real. I came from nothing. I worked since I was 13, married, very, very, I shouldn't say poor because it's not poor, but I never had, I worked hard for what we had, and I spray painted furniture. I would go through garage sales, and where you go to is different. So you want to be with someone who can go to that next level, not who's already there. And here's my theory. Hot guys, I would never date a hot guy, ever. Looking to me, but the hot guy has options. And not every guy has a really good moral compass. So let's be honest with yourselves. And these ladies who are like, well, I want a hot guy. I think you're silly. You want a guy who adores you. I'm going to say it 100 times on this podcast. So some girl out there can be like, oh, he should adore me. Yeah, there's an idea.
So I like that you said that, because that actually led me to my next question. And I have several either guy friends, acquaintances that they are what you call, quote unquote, the nice guy. And they will have a crush on a female, and obviously they're good men. Like, they would treat her like a queen, but she simply doesn't even know he exists, or she looks right through him, and she's looking at what you call the hot guy, or the toxic guy, the successful guy, the guy who walks into the room and just has all of that energy that just basically soaks up the room, because obviously he's successful in his own right. He's fairly good looking, things like that. He drives a nice car, lives in a nice condo, things like that. But what you just said, he won't necessarily adore her because he has options. So what is it about the nice guy, or the guy who simply isn't the hot guy? Why do they come in last?
So, okay, let's define this real fast. The nice guy is not the same as the good guy. The nice guy is the simp. We all know, like he just doesn't have the backbone. He isn't there's no alpha to him. So we call him the nice guy, but I call those guys that you speak of, your friends, the good man. They're good men, and women are passing on them because, again, you brought this up as well, the alpha awesome and the alpha asshole. The alpha asshole, and every woman wants an alpha male. I'll call and be like, hi, this is Katy. What are you looking for? Well, I want the alpha, and the irony is this, they'll say, I want this alpha male, but he has to have a really high EQ. And I'm like, okay, sweetheart, then why don't you go date a yoga instructor? Men that are alphas, doing their work, building their business, selling things for millions of dollars, they have to have like an inner toughness. I mean, sports stars, you're not always about emotions. Your 50 hours a week is grit, or like grit and, working out. And I was a D1 college athlete. I mean, I ran the Boston Marathon in 3:20. Like, I get it. Like,
I see you, Kate.
Yeah, like, no, I'll compete any day. I was actually, my son and I, we were looking at your track speed. I was like, well, what's his mile time though? I'm obviously a distance runner. He goes, Mom, he's not going to have a mile time. Because I honor that and I respect that, because someone who can exercise to that extent, any man who can take his company to the next level is going to have a grit that is not always a high EQ. So these women have these expectations of Mr. Perfect, and it's just not sensible anymore. But I'm just going to tell you and your buddies who are the nice guys, just keep doing the right thing. But also don't go for the hot girl, because every good guy also wants the hot girl. I have a client right now for an NFL team. He does all the analytics. Great guy. He is a good man. I always tell the girls, you want to marry him, you want to have his children, you will have a great life with him. But he's not hot. And I noticed that he keeps choosing the hot girls, from our database and the ladies that I know. And I'm like, she is not going to be a great mother to your children. She's all about her Instagram photos. She's about putting her purse in that spot in her Instagram. Like, that's not what you want to raise up. So it goes both ways. Just make sure, if you are that good man, just go choose a good woman. And again, you don't want the hot woman either, because she's getting DMs all day. I mean, there's way too many ways to cheat and to kind of go off kilter. So you want to ensure success in a relationship and choose someone who's just an amazing person who adores you back.
Katy, I have this theory, and I'm going to run it by you, and I just want you to tell me where it lands with you. And you're talking about how you feel the expectations is probably the biggest reason why dating is harder right now, along with there being so many options, social media. It seems like people are disposable because all you got to do is, like you just said, swipe left and then go to the next person. And I feel for men, most of us growing up, we don't dream about being a lawyer or a doctor or owning our own business. When you're 9, 10 years old, usually as a young male, you're probably into sports, football, basketball, soccer, baseball, golf, whatever. And you tend to have your heroes as probably the best people, the best players at that given sport. And then you go throughout middle school, high school, and you don't get a scholarship. Maybe you get a scholarship, you go to college, and you don't go to the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, soccer, become a professional tennis star or golfer or whatever. And so for men, that understanding of disappointment, that rejection is something that you go through when you're 17 years old. You may go through when you're 20, 21 years old. So you already have that notion that there's times in life where you could simply want something and you may not get it. Don't matter how bad you wanted it. You just simply didn't get it. I know for me, I always wanted to be in the NBA. I always wanted to be Anthony Hardaway or Gary Payton. And guess what? I realized at 15 years old, basketball was not going to get me anywhere in life. I had to accept that rejection. And because of men being able to be in those moments where they have to deal with that harsh rejection, that slap in the face at a younger age, they have more of a realistic, they have more of a down-to-earth type of mindset when you talk about how men aren't looking for necessarily always the female with the perfect skin, the female who's, the perfect female or whatever. They're more willing to deal with the normalcies. They're more willing to deal with certain imperfections, as you just alluded to. How does that theory land with you?
I get it. And it's interesting. I find myself to be a little bit more of a man thinker. Like, I'm very much about that reality bite. I'm 20% romantic. I'm 80% reality. which is why men appreciate me. And I do feel like I speak for men when I'm telling these women they're being ridiculous. But I think you're spot on. So I have a very similar story. I was a cheerleader in high school. Obviously, you can tell, but cheer and dance. And I eventually went on to try out for a Laker girl, and I was on a Nike dance hip hop team. So I love cheer and dance. But my junior year, I started running cross country. And I remember my cross country coach, he said to me, because I was winning every single race, I was crushing it. I just happened to be very good athletically in distance running that I didn't know about. And the school was letting me do both cheerleading and cross country, which is rare. Usually you have to, but I was good at both. So they let me. And my cross country coach gave it to me straight. He said, cheerleading will take you nowhere in life, but I can get you a full ride scholarship. And my heart was like, oh, but cheerleading is so much better. And I even remember saying, well, cross country is for dorks. And I literally said those words, but it got me somewhere in life. And I kind of had to let that dream die. And sure, I tried out for the Laker girls. It didn't get me anywhere. I still say I'm going to be the oldest Laker girl one day. I'm going to keep trying out. But I understand that idea of rejection, and women just don't. I think that's true on the guys' end, where they can definitely, like, they've felt it and they've processed it much faster than women. Women are just going to like hold on and keep trying and keep wanting, rather than the reality is when you're 39 and you want to get married, you should probably change some things, where men would be like, okay, let's change it. No big deal. They can business conceptualize relationships sometimes, where women are all and they're stuck. When I speak to my husband in relationship concepts, like the debrief, like if you have a big event for work, you usually have a debrief afterwards. Or he does 4 times a year. They have the big company dinner. They all fly in, they meet with the VC guys, and they do it 4 times a year because that's how they keep their company on track. And I said, well, sweetheart, every Sunday we're doing our huddle. We call it the huddle because we're keeping our company on track. We're keeping our on track. You do it over here in business. We have to do it over here in relationships. But it's because I can think like a businessman, where some of these ladies are like, well, they'll just get cranky. And instead of having a huddle and a calm discussion, they're just going to get bitter, and it doesn't work well for these women. So holding on to that never works. But, I never really thought about these guys having to give up those dreams, but I think they just take it. I mean, you obviously pivoted very, very well. So you went from one professional sport and just decided to jump into another. Like, what's that story?
I mean, like for me, I always played football and I ran track all throughout high school, college, things like that. Obviously, I went pro in football, but I always loved basketball. Now, my dad, he didn't really care too much for it, but I loved it anyways. And I wanted to play basketball. I also love football as well, but I wanted to play basketball throughout high school. And I just realized by the time I was 15, 16, that like it wasn't for me. And it was easier to allow the rejection of basketball to seep into my brain. It was easier because there's always football and I'm really good in track as well. But if you're somebody that's put all your heart, your soul, all your eggs into that one basket of that sport, and it does not work out for you, I know for me, there's plenty of people that I went to high school with. There's still plenty of people I went to college with that they wound up not being able to carry out their dreams in a respective sport. And it's still to this day in our late 30s, it's still to this day is something that eats away at them. It kind of gnaws away at them where that wound is not completely healed.
Yeah. That's some deeper issues. And I actually, my very second podcast, I call it the 4 foundations in dating. And now that's where you need to go to other people for that deeper healing. And everybody needs to come to the table to fully date after being deeply healed. Because I say that out of 100% of people dating, 80% are junk. They're just junk. They're not ready. Ready, they're not emotionally ready, they don't have the time, they don't have there's so many reasons why 80% are junk, but they're just out there because they like the kudos and they like the attention, or they're bored. And then 20% are quality, and those quality people, I say they're cool, they're just interesting people, they're quality, and then they're ready, they're actually ready for something. So don't be surprised in your dating that, well, people flake, people ghost. That's just the rules of dating. It's just the rules of life is what I teach my kids. But I love what you said too, because just because you want something doesn't mean it's good for you. Now, I love this Bible that says not everything is permissible. Not it says everything is permissible, but not everything's beneficial. So you can go do whatever it is you want to do. You can go date that guy who's hot, but it's not going to be beneficial. So if you keep that in mind, just because you like something doesn't mean you should have. I like baby Ruths, but doesn't mean I'm going to eat one every day, right? Even I worked in retail and clothing. Just because you like an outfit doesn't mean it looks good on you. So it doesn't mean you should buy it. So in that same way, just because you like a guy doesn't mean he's good for you. Just because you think she's hot doesn't mean she's a right fit for you. So really getting smart about those choices and getting your family involved, getting your friends involved. I mean, it's a community. Life is better together in communities. So you want to make sure that people are on that same page. They like you guys together. My husband and I were adorable together. Everywhere we go, people are like, you guys are so adorable. And we are very adorable. So that's a win. I already know, like, okay, that's a win.
Absolutely. And I think that managing expectations and understanding how, in my firm belief, that as you get older, the word settling takes on a completely different meaning versus when you're in your early 20s. And that leads me to one of my final questions. It is a meme that I see a lot on social media. There's women in the picture, but obviously this can go for men as well. And I've experienced men saying this same thing to me, where I believe the quote is, you're going to wind up alone because your expectations/standards are too high. And their response is, you're going to wind up divorced because you settled for less. Where does that exchange land with you?
I mean, honestly, everybody needs Jesus. I feel like in this day and age, this bitter back and forth, I don't need a man. I'm a queen. Where's my king? Like, we need to be really mindful of the words we speak, the power that they have. And settling, here's the deal, is love is a choice. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. It's a choice you make every day to choose that person and to choose to do good and not harm all the days of their life. And when we choose them, we're not choosing ourselves. So with that being said, I mean, we could talk mean memes back and forth all day. And the people who are so busy doing that are the ones who are not being successful anyway. So where you put your energy is where you put your attention. And if people are going to just, I always tell people too, if you're hearting and liking those memes, that's going to be the energy you put into your dating. Good and that's point. Why. So watch what you read, watch what you listen to, watch what you think is funny on Instagram, watch your dating coaches. I've seen a lot of matchmakers and dating coaches never be married. I mean, they're in their 50s and 60s and they have never been married, and they're giving you advice. Find a great couple, ask them for the real deal. I love the couples at my church. They're real, they're honest. And it's, that's where I want to be focused on. So leave that to the 80%ers, but my 20%ers are focused this way towards going towards great relationships. And for dating, I just want people to get confident, to be successful, and to actually have some fun dating. So that's our goal over here at Dating with Katy.
Good to know. And you pretty much answered all my questions just with all of your responses. I feel like I know the answer to this last one, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyways, just because obviously there's no perfect people. We all know that, because everybody has some sort of flaw. Everybody has some sort of imperfection, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a perfect match?
There's real close to a perfect match. Two imperfect people can never be perfect together. My biggest thing, and I'm a believer, is that when you are both focusing up towards God, you're going to be growing together. So that's going to be the perfect match, is that when you take your eyes off of yourselves and focus on the one thing that can really bring you unity and harmony. And what I believe, the person who created love and relationships, when you're focusing on that, then you're going to be coming closer and closer together. And that's really the goal.